Imagine a world where scattered notes, countless sources, and disjointed ideas are a thing of the past. Picture a streamlined, efficient, and enjoyable research process. That's exactly what we're diving into today. In this tutorial, we're going to explore how Mem can transform your content creation, whether you're an academic, journalist, or a blogger. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear roadmap on how to generate an initial outline, seamlessly integrate various sources like books and podcasts, and expand on that outline using Mem's AI features like Smart Write and Edit and Mem Chat. So if you're ready to turn chaos into clarity and gain a clear roadmap for your research process, stick around. So what we're going to do in this video is go over how you can seamlessly integrate different sources into the content you're creating, which can be really useful whether you're doing academic research, whether you're a journalist, or whether you're a blogger who has read a lot of books and wants to incorporate the material that you've gotten from your books into the content that you're creating. And this can often be problematic for people just because this information tends to be scattered all over the place. And the thing that Mem allows you to do is to seamlessly integrate all of this and really retrieve the most relevant information to the content you're creating. So you're not just clicking on a bunch of book notes or looking just through a jumble of text. So the first thing you're going to do is do a bit of brainstorming. In this case, we're going to pick a topic and we're going to do a blog post on the impact of social media on mental health. So I'm going to have Mem Chat come up with a blog post for us. We're going to go ahead and copy this prompt and we're going to pop it into the Mem Chat window over here on the side. And Mem Chat's going to come up with an outline for us. And what I'm going to show you is how we can take that initial outline, integrate different sources, and expand on it. So you can see here that this outline kind of is not that great. One of the things that I like to do when it comes to outlines in blog posts, particularly with AI, is to actually use bullet point questions instead of just having it give you this sort of two topics. So what I'm going to do is do another revision. I'm going to say, okay, revise this outline. I have 4 bullets under each header and give me H2 headers instead and make each bullet a question that I need to answer. The reason for this is that it actually helps a lot in the writing process to just frame these things as questions, because when we're answering questions, we actually tend to do much better and we're able to start thinking a lot faster when we're asked a question than, for example, when we're reading a sentence. So we're going to have it do this. It'll probably use some of this, but it'll give us 4 bullets. So what we're going to do is basically have it revise the outline again. And you can see here that it's actually already pulling from some of the things that are inside of my knowledge base. So the introduction header is pointless. I don't really see any reason for that one. Like, some of it is good, but some of it is not. So you can see here, this is pretty good. It's actually drawing from a lot of the things that I put into the knowledge base. It's even drawing from different blog posts that I've already written. Like, I've already written a blog post on the benefits of quitting social media. So we'll actually link that as one of our resources. So now we've got this outline, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a new mem from this outline. So I'm going to call it the blog outline, and we'll just use a bidirectional link here, and we'll call it blog outline, impact of social media on mental health. I'm going to open this mem, and I am going to cut and paste the note that Mem Chat has given us. So now we can actually shut down the Mem Chat window, and the rest of this we're going to be using Mem's other feature, Mem's Smart Write and Edit. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to shut down this sidebar here so that it goes away. And now we have our outline and we have the various steps here. So we can see here in this outline, we have an outline, but it's not linked to anything else. So if we open the outline and we close our demo thing, you can see here that it actually mentions similar mems. So I have a blog post, for example, titled Quitting Social Media, Reclaim Your Time and Well-Being. And then there's another one on the role of mental health and wellness. And then there's this revised version of the same post. So we're just going to go ahead and grab that one, or this one on excessive social media use. So let's just grab a few of these. I already have some books that I know I want to use. So we're going to basically create this section called sources. One of the things that I like to do is separate this from the outline for the blog post, just because this can get quite long when you're writing a really long piece of content. So for example, if you're doing a New York Times article, a New Yorker article, which tends to be really long and really well researched and well thought out, or even something that is an academic paper, you probably don't want to put all the sources into the same mem or same note as the outline, just because you can get cluttered. And you can just add a link for your sources if you want to. But in this case, what we're going to do, just for the sake of this demo, is we're going to keep everything as far as sources right here. So as far as sources, I know I have this one, which is quitting social media. And then we can see what else we have about excessive social media use. And then we can add those as well. So these are just notes from within the knowledge base that I have created for myself. And so these are just a few things that I wrote about myself, but let's actually pull in sources, things like books and other things. So I know I have a couple of books that I want to use for this purpose. And for the sake of this demo, we're just going to use 3 different books. The first is going to be Dopamine Nation. We'll use Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. And then we'll use The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. So we have 3 books that we're going to use, and we'll start with the books. So what are we going to do? One thing you'll notice here is that as you add more and more content here, the number of mems on the side here, similar mems, will actually start to increase. So as we put more and more content into this, the number of similar mems goes up because of the fact that it has other things that it can associate with. So one of the great things about this is it allows for spontaneous recall of resources that you might have captured but don't remember capturing, or that you never thought about using before. So let's start with Dopamine Nation. So if you look here and click on the link here, we could go through and we could actually cut and paste all the things that are here. But rather than do that, we only want the quotes that are going to be relevant to this particular blog post. So what are we going to do? We're going to take the prompt that it gave us, and so we can say is generate a list of relevant quotes from this book. So instead of saying Dopamine Nation, what I'm going to do is basically tell it to first generate a list of relevant quotes from Dopamine Nation. And here, what I recommend is limiting it. Just you actually are not going to get a big jumble, and be very specific. So I'm telling it to retrieve quotes from Dopamine Nation about the impact of social media on mental health that would be relevant to the outline and content of this article. And then what you can do is you can use Mem's Smart Write and Edit feature, and it will actually go through and get us 5 quotes from Dopamine Nation that will be relevant. And you can even set up this prompt in a way that it will tell you why that note is relevant to the article. So you can see here, it actually does tell us that. It tells us what this quote highlights. Okay, so one of the things it did here, I'm realizing, is that it actually pulled quotes from the wrong book. This is actually a good mistake to be aware of. So one thing we'll want to do is only link one resource at a time to avoid this. So for the time being, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these from here and put them here just so we can go back to them. So we know those are from The Anxious Generation. And so I'm going to remove the references to digital minimalism and Anxious Generation, and I'm going to have it do this again. So this is something that you want to be aware of, just because of the fact that sometimes Mem gets confused if you put too much information in here. And so what you'll find is that we're going to basically just repeat this process again for 2 other books. The other thing you can do is you can just click on the book note itself and basically get whatever content. So you can see here that now we have these 5 quotes from this book. We have 5 quotes from this. So I'm going to, just to avoid having it accidentally pull from the wrong book again, what I'm going to do is I am going to take this and I'm going to put it over here into our demo outline for the time being. And so instead of Dopamine Nation, what we're going to do is we're going to take this and replace it with digital minimalism. And I'm going to basically do the same thing. So it has the prompt, and now we're going to get a list of relevant quotes. And so what you'll see is now that we have these quotes, once we put the quotes back here, if we go back to similar mems, you'll see that the number of similar mems will have increased quite a bit. Okay, so you can see here, it made the same mistake again with grabbing from the wrong book. So this is something that you want to be aware of. So when it does something like that, what you want to do is basically just get rid of this, and let's just open the note for digital minimalism and go into the note itself and just say, extract 5 quotes for an article. Say, retrieve 5 quotes for an article about the impact of social media on mental health. So one of the good things about being able to do this is, rather than going to, look at every single thing and going through the whole list of notes that you captured from a book, you can actually get the ones that are relevant to the piece of content that you are working on. So in this case, what we're going to do is I'm just going to grab these and I'm going to put them here. So now we're going to link up all our sources here in the outline. So we know for a fact that this is from digital minimalism. And if we go back to the outline here, or our demo outline, you can see here that these are the ones for anxious generation. So we'll just put anxious generation, and we'll call this one dopamine nation. So once we put all of these quotes in here, our outline for the blog post, what we should see is, now you can see here that now the number of similar memes has actually gone up a bit. And so let's go ahead and just link these different notes as well. Let's actually link the names of the books, because if we link the names of the books, that's another thing that will cause the number of similar memes to increase. So you can see here now it's actually increasing already significantly. And so you can see here it's finding any of the other relevant notes that I have on social media. So I'm just going to pull those in as well. And I'm just going to link the actual book titles here. So we're going to go ahead and put this one here, and we're going to call this one Dopamine Nation. We're going to call this one The Anxious Generation. And then we'll do the same thing for digital minimalism. We'll just make it an H3 tag so it's bigger. And now what we're going to basically do is we're going to take all of this and we're going to have Smart do a revision of this outline and also place the quotes within it wherever it makes sense. First thing we're going to do, rather than do it all in one prompt, I'm going to actually separate it into 2 prompts just because of the fact that sometimes it'll screw up. So what I'm going to do is tell it to say, revise this outline and incorporate the sources below, and place the quotes where appropriate. So let's see if it does it right on the first time. And so what we should get is another version of this outline that incorporates all of our notes from below, like all our sources. And you can see here that you can basically see it's actually putting in all of the quotes in the various places, and it's adding our questions back. So now what we've done is we've taken an article, we've outlined it using Mem Chat, we have brainstormed a bit, and we've leveraged all of the knowledge in our knowledge base, and we've effectively set up the outline to help us seamlessly integrate whatever sources we want to use into this blog post without having to go to 20 different websites or open up 20 different books. I'm going to go ahead and replace it. So you can see here now we have all our quotes in the right places. Basically, it says where each quote belongs within the article, or what part of the article the quote belongs in. And we can expand this further if we wanted to. What we can do is we can say, okay, what do we know about all of this from what is already inside of the knowledge base? But the great thing about all of this is that it dramatically streamlines the entire process of integrating our sources. So just to recap all the steps and see how this all started. First thing we did was we came up with an idea and we brainstormed with Mem Chat. And once we were done with the Mem Chat brainstorm, what we were able to do is then create a mem with a new outline and link the sources of knowledge that we know we have inside of the knowledge base that we want to use. But rather than having to dig deep into every single one of those sources of knowledge and identify every single quote or relevant piece of information yourself, we're able to use Mem's AI features to seamlessly integrate the most relevant ones directly into the article. And then, of course, you have your similar mems, which increases as the amount of content in a particular note increases. You'll see more and more similar memes. So you can see here that from where we started, we now actually have several notes from the Unmistakable Creative Interview transcripts. We have another book called Stolen Focus, which I didn't even remember to use, which also would have been relevant to the ideas in this article. And so now we have our three different notes. And then what we do once we have linked the various sources of knowledge is we do a revision of the outline and we integrate the different sources of knowledge, whether they're quotes, whether they're books, or even titles of notes that you have inside of the knowledge base, into the process. So this really makes research, particularly if you do things that involve very complex research or, cite a lot of sources. This makes things a lot easier for doing that because of the fact that every one of your sources is already in Mem, but you can also synthesize them using Mem's AI features. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below.